Less than 48 hours removed from Ohio State 37, Maryland 17. Lettermen Row is back in the very building that classic game took place for the Monday after Ohio State 37, Maryland 17. That's the 40-year vet Tim May. That's Andy Backstrom. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Let's dive in, fellas. We've all done the rewatch. We've done the homework, the work, as they say. And now we can talk about it a little bit further. Tim, first thoughts on the second watch from you?
Kind of like my first impression to begin with was Ohio State got off to a slow start, but when it got going, it outscored Maryland, 37-7. That's a pretty good day when you think about it, if you haven't already given up those 10 points. So I thought it was a really good win. You know, people really, not just locally, but around the country, kind of grasp on the first half of games and stuff, and that kind of sets their mind about how the game went, when in fact Ohio State dominated Maryland in the second half of this game. Number two, Maryland was a good team coming into this, a better team than last year. They're going to take their shots. They took their shots both offensively and defensively and had some success early, but ran out of juice. Now, that's not excusing Ohio State's slow start, because they still should line up and be able to do at least what Maryland does from the start, right? So that's my take on it. The bottom line is it's a 60-minute game, and Ohio State outscored Maryland 37-7 in the last 40 minutes of that game.
Your thoughts, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Day said it. They didn't panic. As Tim said, the second half's more important than the first half. They really liked what they saw in the second half. They didn't like what they saw in the first half. Two things stick out to me. Red zone offense has been a problem this season. It continued to be a problem for Ohio State. They had 4 red zone trips. Only 2 of those ended in touchdowns. The other 2 were short Jaden Fielding field goals. And now I think they're 12th in the Big Ten in red zone touchdown percentage. It's not very good. That's something that needs to be improved and cleaned up as the season goes on. Third down as well, another issue. 3 of 12 yesterday, or I guess Saturday, in the Horseshoe against Maryland. Now they are only 7th in the Big Ten in third down conversion rate. Last year they were 2nd. They're about 5% down. They used to be 45% last season. Now they're about 40% this season. Those are 2 big issues that, from a big picture lens, I mean, that's something you got to get figured out as an offense in terms of your efficiency.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway is against Maryland, this was good. To get a win, a slow start, and then you come out and you dominate, and that's good. But I'm not anymore. I used to, but I've kind of evolved in my thinking, comparing Ohio State to what it did against Maryland by just okay, did you beat Maryland? I compare this team to 2 weeks from now when they play Penn State, or I guess less than 2 weeks from now in this building when they play Penn State, in 6 weeks when they play at Michigan. I have to hold this team to the standard that they want to be held to, and the standard they want to be held to is not, you beat Maryland. The standard is, can you win a national championship? I saw some things that I think are positive, trending positively, where yes, this team can win a national championship. And right when I say that, I saw some things that it's I can't see it right now because of some of the mental errors, the special teams play, the offensive line, all of it is basically on the offensive side. I have no issues with what they're doing defensively right now, but that's where I'm at with this team, and there's a lot of room for improvement. West Lafayette's not the greatest place to go when you need improvement for Ohio State historically. I don't think that's going to be the case this week, but you never know when you go to West Lafayette. And then in 12 days, you're going to roll the ball out here in the Horseshoe against Penn State and see where you're at. But at that point, it's either going to be, you've arrived, or, it's too late because you're going to get a loss. So that's where I'm at with this team after the rewatch.
Yeah, I mean, I think every week's a new week. Everything's always evolving. We knew this offensive line for Ohio State was going to be a project. I didn't think it would be a project that would go 5 games into the year. The offensive line is still inconsistent in the way it's playing. The running game is a direct reflection of that, I do believe. I do believe Chip Trainum is running hard. Mayan Williams, of course, got a little bit more of a call on Saturday because Travion Henderson was missing. You could definitely tell Travion Henderson was missing from that lineup. We'll see if he's ready to go on Saturday. I understand it was some type of rib, kind of internal rib bruise kind of thing that they kept him out as a precaution more than anything else. As Ryan Day said, he could have played if he had needed to play. So we'll see where that goes. Emeka Egbuka was in a walking boot when he left the stadium on Saturday. But the good news was he was in a walking boot,
Yeah.
not a cast, and
Or crutches.
And there was some conjecture whether he might have broken a bone or something, but the way I understand it, he did not. We'll see as this week goes on if there's any further updates. But the bottom line is this is an offense that needs to start getting off to quicker starts. And Ryan Day, interestingly, when I asked him about that after the game on Saturday, kind of indicated, because I said it just seemed like Kyle McCord was just a beat behind, even a half beat behind on recognition and throwing the ball. I'm talking about early. And Ryan Day agreed with that and just said, we got to get better in that regard, fast starts. And he was meaning primarily the quarterback in the passing game, and said, if you saw what I wrote, that he may have him running laps before this week's game. He laughed, but I think he was only half joking. Something's got to kind of get going a little bit earlier for Kyle McCord in the uptake situation. So we'll see where that goes. But I think Kyle McCord is playing extremely well. To have a slow start like that and then throw for a career high 320 yards, which included minus 18 yards on a pass he wished Chip Trainum had never caught.
Yeah.
On that scramble backwards. That was still a pretty damn good day for Kyle McCord. Like I said, look at the 60 minutes, not the first 30.
Yeah, if you don't love Kyle McCord at his 2 for 7 for 14 yards, you don't deserve him at his 17 of 22 for 306 and 2 touchdowns. Let's scrape that. You can't do this. Ryan Day said you can't take the good plays off the board to evaluate the running game. Well, you can't take the bad plays off the board to evaluate the passing game. So that's the standard we set here. Yeah. So 2 of 7 for 14 is pitiful. It's terrible. There's no way to sugarcoat 2 of 7 for 14 yards when your offense has 28 yards and you're down 10-0. But that being said, 17 of 22 for 306 and 2 touchdowns immediately after that is insanely good. I know that he missed a couple of deep throws, still connected on them, but the one here to Julian Fleming, it's got to be thrown out in front of him. That's an easy touchdown. And it makes it so you don't have to worry about the red zone issues. It makes it so you don't have to get in goal to go and try to score a touchdown with your running game that is non-existent right now. You don't. And then,
by the way, we changed our setting. That we're on the south end. That ball was thrown to Julian Fleming on the north end.
It's all semantics here.
Just wanted to let you know.
And then the Marvin
Harrison Jr. don't miss in.
Thank you. The Marvin Harrison Jr. throw, you've also got to make that throw. And it was a 57-yard throw, so I get it. That's a hard throw to make. That also was pretty kind of wow. It was a little swirly in here as far as the wind goes.
The wind was weird on Saturday.
So I get it. It's 57 yards in the air. But he saw it late. He still completed it, but he saw it late. Those are the things that you have to get corrected. But 17 of 22, Andy, for 306 and 2 touchdowns. That's as good as you're going to find against a pretty decent, not good, but decent Maryland secondary.
And yet again, he's staying calm and poised and not letting the 2 of 7 start rattle him, right?
Yep.
But I take no issue with the throw he had to Marvin, those 58 yards. Marvin told me he was not the read on that play at all. It was cover 3, and he's not supposed to be the target on that throw. And Kyle, yet again, saw Marvin on a play that wasn't designed for Marvin and made the adjustment and made the throw downfield. So I think the fact that he got there at all is what's most important, and that Marvin Harrison Jr. was able to catch that ball and you gain 58 yards and get the offense going. I think that Kyle McCord certainly has issues early game. He talked about that. He admitted he needs to be better. He's overthinking things, trying to make big plays when they're not there, not taking what is there. Just missing some throws. The first play again had a missed throw, a screen pass, I'm pretty sure, a swing pass or something. It was by the feet.
Basketball coaches teach bounce passes pretty often. So if that's what he was going for, then it was nice.
But it's the same thing we saw against Notre Dame, right? Pass out, I think, a horizontal game pass, essentially, on the first pass of the game. And I just wish
that was designed to get him going.
Right, but they should just slant to Marvin.
Yeah,
there you go. Hard play, right?
And by the way, on that deep ball to Marvin,
that's what I say.
He took 2 hitches. He took 2 hitches like this before he let the ball go. And it was clear if you watched the play, clear. See, I've always believed you read back to front, meaning defense, because you want to know where the safety is, right? And that safety jumped. And that did throw him off, like you're talking about. It threw him off his timing a little bit, because all of a sudden he goes, there's a big play there. But he took one more hitch and threw it, you know what I mean? And one more skip step, whatever you want to call it, and threw it. And you're right, but the one to Julian Fleming was the one that bothered me a little bit more, because that looked like the primary read, and And there were two things that could have happened there. He just underthrew it. Judah Flume still made a sliding catch.
Yeah, that was a great
Or
catch.
the wind, when it comes over the top of the stadium, when it's coming out of the north sometimes, it just knocks balls down on that end of the stadium as it rolls in. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess my point is I'm not blaming Kyle totally for what went on, because there were some elements involved. But just the offense itself, and he's leading it, has got to get off to a faster start.
100%.
Well, and Saturday they're going to need to get off to an even faster start because it's going to be 50 degrees and there's going to be some rain and it's going to be windy. So that brings me to, all right, let's do it. Crack the knuckles. The offensive line. I don't think it's in a good spot right now.
What do they do? What can you do about it?
I don't know if that's the issue, Tim, and that's why we're here to talk about it. It's almost let's have a chat. Let's sit down and have a chat. If we had chairs, we could sit down, cross our legs, and really dissect what's going on here.
Fire pit.
Yeah, we need a little fireside chat for the offensive line. They're not getting to linebackers. There are linebackers running free in the box to stop running backs in the hole, no yards after contact, because the contact is coming at the line of scrimmage. The pulling looks disorganized, and I don't think that it's by scheme. I think the scheme is not the issue. And Ryan Day always says it's either personnel, coaching, or scheme. I don't think it's the scheme. I study a lot of what Justin Fry says in coaching clinics, in the summer, the off season, wherever he speaks. I try, if it's available, to listen. I don't think it's the coaching. The personnel.
You're a fry daddy. Go ahead.
I try to be a sponge, especially with offensive line play, because it's so intricate in the way that it's handled more than any other position on the field.
I agree.
More so even than quarterback. I try to understand the offensive line very well. The personnel is just, I don't think that it's getting it done right now. And, I showed a play on Twitter. Andy cut up a GIF for me because I'm an old man at this point. They run a nice play to the outside. It should be blocked well, and if it's blocked well, it's probably a touchdown. G. Scott misses on the corner. That makes Matt Jones, who's pulling to the left, go out and get the corner. That clogs the lane, but it doesn't matter because Josh Fryer doesn't get to the lane, because instead of blocking a Maryland defender, he blocks Cade Stover's back.
Yeah.
Cade Stover can't block if somebody's pushing on him. They have three Maryland guys in the hole where it should have been a touchdown. It's a 1-yard gain for Chip Trainum, and he's trying to leap over his own guys. That's how disorganized it is at this point. And
like bowling pins?
I don't want to rant because there's two people beside me who also know what they're talking about. But you can't run the ball 30 times and pass it 32 times if this is what you're getting in the run game. You just can't, because
I agree 100%.
You're not getting anything out of what you're doing. And I understand it's process, and there's big gains to be had even when you're not running the ball successfully against Notre Dame. There's a 61-yard gain in there somewhere. But at this point, you really have to take a look at yourself and say, okay, is balance
run and shoot, baby?
Is balance a good thing at this point? Because the running game is just not doing it right now, Andy.
Yeah, the passing game has bailed them out. I agree 100%. And the point is, you like those reps against an opponent as opposed to your scout team or your teammates, because it tells you where you are. And we're going to hear again, I'm sure, that it's inconsistent. It's one guy missing here or some guy. But at this point, 5 games in, the mounting evidence is, number one, Maryland lined up to stuff the run on Saturday. That was their primary, for whatever reason, that was their primary goal. Because I think they knew that Ohio State's going in trying to establish its running game. There are all kinds of little psychological things going on there. But you just can't have guys running free like Ohio State is having in the running game. You can't have guys running free from the defensive side of the ball, like you just pointed out. And, that's been going on since the first game, since against Indiana. And it really hasn't gotten much better except for a 61-yard run by Travion Henderson at Notre Dame.
Which was all Travion Henderson.
Well, it wasn't all.
Marvin
No, there was
Harrison
some.
Jr.
There were good blocks on that play. Marvin Harrison Jr. made a great block on the edge.
I'm talking about up front, though.
You got to get through the swinging door, and Travion shot through the swinging door. And too bad the swinging door caught Marvin Harrison Jr.'s ankle. But the bottom line is that was a hell of a well-run play.
The offensive line was not, though, because there wasn't a hole for him. He bounced it outside. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a great block on that play. But
You're supposed to bounce it if it's
the play
stuffed.
the play still for the offensive line
Chip Traynor
wasn't
had one
what
of those Saturday. Remember?
wasn't what it was supposed to be, Andy, and it's just like a recurring issue that I don't know is going to get fixed at this point.
Yeah, well, I think Maryland was selling out to stop the run because they've struggled against early down running this season, and Mike Loxley talked about it leading up to the game. We need to stop the run.
Yeah.
So I think that was the mindset, and they did. And here's a stat for you. Ohio State had a net rushing total of 62 yards. That's the fewest they've had in a game since they had 35 against Michigan State in 2011.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, now, okay,
That's a decent stat.
there were some games along the line. 2018, I believe they had 76 against Purdue. 2021, they had 64 against Michigan. So it's like they've been in that ballpark before, but 62, again, fewest since 2011 in a game. And you have to keep in mind the sacks count against the rushing total, but that probably happened in those games too. So,
If you remember that 2011 offense,
yeah,
try to forget it.
6-win, infamous season, of course, everyone.
Braxton Miller, without Braxton Miller,
So again,
what would that offense have been?
Even worse.
yeah. So look, the rushing offense is not working. We've been talking about this. Like, what do you do? And that's the question that Tim posed. And I think you got to shift something. If it isn't personnel, which it could be, you got to shift at least your philosophy of how you want to mimic the run game with the pass game. And we've seen a lot of that from Ryan Day through the years of trying to have the horizontal game, the swing passes, the screen passes, the motion.
Not a fan of that.
But you have to have something. You have to do something to substitute it, because otherwise,
I think you throw the ball. I mean, you know what this team does? It's exactly what I was saying at the end of the year last year. What this offense is best geared to do is throw the ball down the field, meaning attack where there are fewer guys. Just like that jet sweep with Emeka Egbuka on that 4th and 1 at Notre Dame. You're going against a team. Maryland has some good athletes on its defensive side of the ball. The sideways stuff, in my opinion, 8 times out of 10 does not work against defenses that can run. And I think Ohio State has always been at its best when it just lines up and has Josh Fryer, for example, and Matt Jones just fire out straight ahead. If it's a double team and come off and hit a guy, do it. If you've got a tight end with you, helping you, do it. But the bottom line is you're much better off with a Chip Traynham, I think, and Mayan Williams, of firing out. Straight ahead means straight ahead, angles, but keep it between the tackles and just maul people. And they kind of do that sometimes, and sometimes they don't. And like I just brought up a while ago, that play where Chip Traynham ran into the line early in the game. Remember, I said to you, God, he ran right into a brick wall there, but then he bounced out and went for like 3 or 4 yards, whatever it was. But that was a great example of what's bothering me about this run game more than anything else is it seems predictable. It seems readable by the defense. And sometimes you can't help that being the case, but it just seems more often than not they know exactly what's coming and where to muster the troops, for want of another term. And that bothers you. If you're watching this, I think from a Ohio State standpoint, heck, put on that 1973 team's tape and watch that offensive line just move the line of scrimmage backwards. If you want some inspiration, you can still do that.
You can also, I know this is going to sound just like a crazy galaxy brain idea, you can use the pass to set up the run. Well, if Maryland is set on stopping the run on your first 2 drives, and then you come out on 1st and 10 on your 3rd drive, and you continue to run the ball, the odds are you're not going to have much success.
What's my favorite saying?
You are allowed to use the passing game to set up the run. If a team is going to stop the run with you and take that away and make the passing game beat you, let the passing game beat them early and then hit them with the run. The thing that the 29th...
What's my favorite saying?
What's that?
When in doubt, air it out.
Well, the thing that the 2019 team did so well with J.K. Dobbins, it was a run-first team. But if you were trying to take away the run, it would pass and then set up the run. The thing that C.J. Stroud did so well, even when the running game wasn't great during his tenure here at Ohio State, is like when the running game wasn't operating at peak capacity, they would pass. And then in the second quarter, you would get a long run from Travion Henderson.
But C.J. Stroud wasn't out there on the field going, I'm just going to throw it on this down. It was the play calling.
I'm aware. Yeah. So I just think that you can. It's not. I'm not blaming.
I'm with you on that 100%.
I just think that there are ways
80%.
to help the running game, Andy, that do not involve 1st and 10 run, 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 8 at this point, stretch to the boundary, 3rd and 7, throw the ball. It doesn't have to be like that.
Something needs to change, and again, like Tim mentioned, like maybe it is going more man-to-man blocking, because right now the scheme is heavy on zone blocking in the run game, and I think that scheme works. Like, it's worked here, it's worked a lot of places, but you have to play to their strengths of your personnel. And if this 5, you're not going to change anyone up front, which, you know, I'm not banking on them changing anyone, because at this point in the season, you might just have to ride with the guys you got.
Yep.
So if you're not going to do that, then you got to change something. And if you don't want to go to the horizontal game with the passing game and just kind of substitute the runs, then you got to have some kind of change with the scheme. And I think if the man-to-man blocking works better, like Tim thinks it is, and then maybe it will.
I'm just saying it gets you going.
Yeah, maybe it will. I mean, you got to try something, right? Because it's not working what they're doing. And all season there have been guys on those combo blocks just like missing linebackers that are shooting through the gaps.
Right.
Or the pulling guard or whatever is just on no one. Like, how many times do you see, there was a play, this was on a pass play actually, where Carson Hinsman kicked out and was just standing there, and there was no one to block, and then you had Matt Jones trying to block the interior rusher, and he just blows right by him. Kyle McCord has to throw a ball to the feet of Chip Trainum. I mean, there's just not organized play up front right now, and maybe it's too complicated for the 5 that are playing, and that's not like an insult on their intelligence or anything. There's some players are better suited to play a different scheme, and maybe these 5 just aren't right for this.
And here's the thing, guys. Justin Fry works with these guys. So does Ryan Day and the rest of the coaching staff. I think I give them the benefit of the doubt because they see them 24/7, that they are trying to do what they think is best with this group of linemen, But when we watch them on Saturday, that's where you scratch your head. This team is undefeated. It has come up with offense when it has needed offense this year so far, especially at Notre Dame. It came up with pass pro when it needed it desperately at Notre Dame.
Pass pro has been good.
You're not going to be perfect in pass pro every time because teams are scheming to beat you. But in a running sense, it's an old saying, but what do they hang their hat on when they run the ball? What play, what scheme, what series of plays are they hanging their hat on? And I can't name it for you right now.
You cannot.
I'm saying, I know what they're doing. I'm saying, what can they hang their hat on that we're going to get 5 yards on this play. We're going to get the running back to the second level on this play. Well, how many times, what is that play? What is that scheme? No matter what it is, they don't have one right now that they can go, yes, this is going to get us a yard.
Well, in the offense in general, 2 things to wrap up this offensive line conversation as we move along on the Monday after Ohio State 37, Maryland 17. 2 things. First drive of the game, perfect microcosm of what this offense has been all year. Skip pass to Marvin Harrison Jr., 2nd and 10. A run to the right side, 3rd and 9, then you're in 3rd and 9. If Marvin Harrison Jr. catches that, and if Kyle McCord delivers a good throw, that play was pretty well blocked up by Julian Fleming on the outside. You're probably getting 7 or 8 yards there. Then that makes the Maryland linebackers run sideline to sideline to get to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
Then what do? Then you run to the right side and you pick up 5 or 6 yards against tired linebackers and you get a first down, a fresh set of downs, and you're off and running. And instead, it was a skip pass, and I'm not blaming Kyle McCord for the running game struggles, believe me. But it's certainly something to monitor.
That was
early.
A running play, basically.
It's something to monitor early in games. The second thing, and agree to disagree. I know that Tim says once things happen, they just happen. You cannot have an offensive line discussion without directly talking about, or at least acknowledging, the recruiting failures under the last offensive line coach before this all happened. Because if we would have said last September with this offensive line, who's the starting offensive line for 2023? We didn't have a damn clue because of the, not dearth of bodies, but the dearth of high-level NFL talent that being an offensive lineman at Ohio State demands to be behind the guys who were playing last year. And that is a direct result of what happened from 2019 to 2021 on the recruiting trail. That's a discussion for another time of just like, how did this happen and where do they go from here? But like, that's kind of like, you have to talk about that, or you have to at least, again, acknowledge it when you talk about this offensive line.
Right, you acknowledge it, but you've got what you've got now. We're talking about what they've got now. Where can they go from here? They're number They're 5-0. They're number 3 in the country. We're not talking about a rummy-dummy team. We're not even talking about a rummy-dummy offense. That's for damn sure. But just like Ryan Day said in the offseason, you've got to get that offensive line going from a tougher standpoint. Toughness isn't even the word. It's just like they look. The word I keep going back to, guys, when I watch them run the ball, is it's discombobulated. You're just not getting hats on hats. There's always another colored hat coming through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or there in the hole. Not always. You don't put everything in one jar and say that's that. But it happens way too frequently. And that's what they got to get ironed out, because they've got who they've got, and they think they're going places. But to get to what you're saying, the ultimate place, as you opened this discussion with, they have got to get better in the running game on the offensive line.
I think every aspect of this team can win a national championship right now except the offensive line. And that's the pressure that's on this unit. As we move along here, there's a lot of pressure right now, especially in the first half on Saturday, on the defense to make plays and to keep Ohio State in these games. But I wrote a column on lettermenrow.com. Andy, you read it. I'm not tooting my horn. You agreed with it. And it's something that we need to start talking about. This team is winning with defense first. And this is the defense first club right now. And that's okay, but it's sure taking a lot of getting used to. Trying to come up with words to describe how to win with defense when you're so accustomed to, since 2018, I think it was offense first in 2019, even though that defense was incredible. It's hard to wrap your head around an Ohio State team that's winning with defense, but that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, you don't need to win with defense every game, but a championship team can win defense some games, and that's the important thing. Like your offense is off for the first half, your defense picks you up, and then your offense gets going, and then you win the game. There's going to be games where maybe the defense isn't playing well in the first half. The offense picks it up. Like, it's complementary football in a way that's not like they're working off each other, but they're picking each other up.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need from a championship level team. I want to highlight JT Tuimoloau because he has been great the last 2 weeks. I know the whole Notre Dame game, he wasn't perfect, but he obviously came up when it mattered most. I thought he maybe played his best game of the season on Saturday in this building, because there were 3 plays that stuck out to me in particular. It was the 4th and 1 where Maryland decided to go for it. They were up 7-0. They put in their other quarterback, Billy Edwards Jr. JT comes off the edge, gets the first hands on Billy Edwards Jr. Then Tommy Eichenberg comes in to stop him, turnover on downs. Yeah. Then there was the 4th and 3 that kind of ended the game, in my opinion. It was 27-17 at the time. Maryland had its back against the wall, and it had no choice but to go for it. And JT is the first on the scene to stop Maryland there. I think that was Antoine Littleton running the ball. Shut it down. And then the other play is this first sack of the season, which it really, in my opinion, is the second sack of the season, because I really thought that at Notre Dame he had one. But
yeah.
Anyway, he comes out flying, shot out of a cannon, I think Spencer said in the press box. Totally agree, but he was unblocked, so he should. But he was so fast. I think that's the fastest I've ever seen him just fly out to sack Taulia Tagovailoa. And so, again, he had a team-high 6 pressures. Jack Sawyer was not as disruptive on Saturday, but JT Tuimoloau I thought was really impressive, and he's making an impact in run defense, making an impact as a pass rusher, and I think he's really starting to come on, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and Tim, real quick, Tim, just to set you up for this, JT Tuimoloau is making the kind of plays that make teams block him. And that sounds really stupid, but there are a lot of times where defensive ends go unblocked in an offensive scheme. If you choose to not block 44, he realizes it very quickly. I think that's one of his best traits. When you try to option him, when you try to do things to him, he makes the play. Those are the kind of little things that offensive coordinators are going to look at and go, okay, we can't option this guy. We have to block him, and that frees up Mike Hall. It frees up Tyleik Williams. It frees up Caden Curry and Jack Sawyer, who Caden Curry I think is playing really well right now. I just think that's worth noting when you say that. Like, offenses are going to have to start scheming to JT Tuimoloau because he's making teams pay for trying to option him. Go ahead.
I don't know why offenses aren't already scheming to him. I think they are to a certain extent.
You know what I'm saying, though.
When you leave a guy unblocked sometimes, in an option kind of situation, a lot of times that's the best player on that other side, because now you're putting him in the conundrum situation of do I run to the fire, or do I stay right here and wait for the fire to come to me? You understand what I'm saying? And that doesn't work with JT Tuimoloau. Why does he just go by J. Tuimoloau? Because, his T is for T is for Tuimoloau. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just so people understand, his middle name doesn't start with T. But I digress. Jalen Tuimoloau. But yeah, I was asking him about it after the game on Saturday, and I said, you just seem to be popping up at the right time and making plays. And he goes, it's all in the scheme. He goes, you're playing your responsibility, but when it's your responsibility and it comes to you, you've got to make the play. If you're given the opportunity, like you just pointed out on that one rush, he had one bull rush on Saturday where he shoved the guy backwards too, and almost got to the quarterback. I mean, there are all these things he brings to the fore, but one of them is, without a doubt, his first 2 steps are about as quick as anybody.
Yep.
And it totally mucks up a play that a team has where they've gone where they did not block him, and he's not supposed to be a factor, and he ends up being a factor. But the other guy I want to throw out there, in my opinion, this guy is a bonus for this team this year, and a bonus at exactly the right time, and it's Josh Proctor. He is playing at such a higher level than he's ever played before, and by that I mean the level is from a consistency standpoint of being under control, but then exploding to the ball, exploding to his responsibility, taking care of his responsibility. Remember all those times where I kept wanting him to be the defensive player of the game back years ago and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was talking about him, and the other guy we had here then would always give me grief because I was always bringing up Josh. Josh Proctor is now playing like the player I thought he was going to play like 3 or 4 years ago when we thought he was going to be a 3 and gone.
Yeah.
Good for him. And JT Tuimoloau, I was talking about that. He just feels really good for Proc, as he calls it. And that little story I wrote for us on Lettermen Row about Tuimoloau, talking about this pit of fire that they've got going on defensively. That they've got a chip on their shoulder. That they're almost nurturing this chip on their shoulder to keep growing. Because I think the whole defense, it gave up a drive to start the second half on Saturday that gave Maryland the lead 17-10. That was not a good sequence for the defense. But after that, they just ratcheted it down.
Yeah.
Batting the hatches, whatever cliche you want to throw in there about the other team not having a chance after that. You saw that right your own eyes. Last year, the hatches would have still been flipping open. I just this defense has come a long way, and when you have leaders like Tuimoloau and then Josh Proctor stepping up the way he has, and then the other guys up front, Tyleik Williams is playing on another level. Mike Hall had his best overall game on Saturday this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Y'all might beg to differ, but he was a force on Saturday many times. And when you got that going for you, man, you got something going.
2 areas of concern for me for the defense. Nothing really major, but I think that it's worth highlighting. This team struggles with slot fades. I think slot fades are just something that all defenses struggle with. It's an offensive cheat code almost if you've got a quarterback that can make them.
I hate those plays.
Drew Aller potentially can make those throws. I know J.G. McCarthy can make those throws. Something to monitor just because teams are getting Sonny Styles out wide. He's really good, but I'm not sure how good he is in coverage right now, Andy. And then the other thing is the linebacker play's got to get better. The linebackers the last 2 weeks have been neutralized. I know that's partially game plan, but it's also just missed tackles. And, on Talia Tagovailoa touchdown, Steel Chambers misses a tackle. On a critical 3rd and short, Ohio State's got Talia Tagovailoa in the backfield, scrambling. Josh Proctor jumps up to bat down a pass that was never going to happen, and Tommy Eichenberg just completely misses the tackle. Like, those are the little things that the linebackers have got to get cleaned up because the last 2 weeks it just hasn't been right, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, those plays stick out. Cody Simon also had a memorable, not great moment in that game as well. But they also, Tommy Eichenberg had 13 tackles.
Yep. Yeah.
5 more than anyone on the field. Like, those ones do stick out. And those stick out to me when I was watching the game live. Watching it back, I was like, they weren't terrible. It was just, they had those moments where like, oh, gee, that's not good. So that's one thing about the linebackers. Sonny Styles, you're right, was in coverage a lot. He was targeted, I think, 5 times or 6 times. Against Maryland, which was way more than he's been targeted all season.
Yeah.
Where he was lining up, he was only in the box for 6 of his 29 snaps, which was interesting to me because that's where he's been, like the box, defensive line. They liked him play him as a run defender. He was in coverage a lot. That one that you're talking about, and I think it was a slot fade, was a back shoulder throw from Talia Tagovailoa.
Great throw.
He just made 2 really good throws.
Yep.
I thought that there
Yeah,
was also
the guy's a hell of
one
a quarterback.
right here where Jordan Hancock was in coverage, and I thought that was just more of a good throw than bad coverage. But you're right, Sonny's in coverage a lot more, and I wonder how they're going to use him with that, if they want him to be there, if they don't. And then also, I was just going to bring up like the safeties overall. We talked a lot about Josh Proctor, but got to shout out Lathan Ransom, also had an interception. That was really a 3-man rush. They flushed Talia Tagovailoa out.
Tyleek Williams especially.
Yep, and he tried to make something happen out of nothing. Lathan Ransom was there to leap up and get the interception. That was key. And then also on the goal line, Maryland had a shot to go up 14-0, and they called a quarterback keeper, some kind of quarterback power concept for Talia Tagovailoa, and he tries to go off to the left pylon there, and instead running parallel are Sonny Styles and Josh Proctor to stop him. So,
Yeah.
and then a whole gang of tacklers as well. So these safeties as a whole are playing really well. And as you know, Sonny Styles, as much as we talked about how he was in coverage against Maryland, he also had that well-timed blitz from Jim Knowles on 3rd and 9 that was crucial because it was a 20-17 game in the 4th quarter. Sonny Styles comes flying in. No one touches him. He brings down Talia Tagovailoa for no gain, and then they force a punt, and Ohio State takes over from there.
And let's, before we finish this, let's bottom line get back to what I was talking about at the very beginning. Ohio State won this game by 20 points. It was an 18 to 19 point favorite, depending on where you looked. Ohio State, forget about covered. Ohio State won this game basically the way it should have. We, in this show every Monday, we're nitpicking. Now, we're nitpicking on the number 3 team in the country that's 5-0, playing with 3 new starting offensive linemen and a new starting quarterback, and who's going to be at running back next? Who knows? But the point is, I think this team is playing well right now. Maryland was 5-0 and was playing well. Yeah, who had they played? I don't know. Who cares? They were still 5-0. Came in, they were kind of like a better Western Kentucky. They were going to come in and create havoc with their defense, which Western Kentucky just plays a little bit nondescript sometimes, going for turnovers. Well, who won the turnover battle Saturday? Once again, Ohio State did. Who won the scoring fest? Ohio State did. So I don't want people leaving this video thinking Ohio State stinks, because it does not in any way stink. But it definitely, if you watch Michigan's offensive line play, if you watch Penn State's offensive line play to a certain extent, this offensive line for Ohio State has got to get better. It's got to match that, and or get closer to that level, and it's not yet.
No, it is not. But again, 5-0, the best thing about going 5-0 is a chance to go 6-0. Ohio State is already at 5-0, heading to Purdue on Saturday. West Lafayette for a critical showdown before Penn State. 40-year vet Tim May, he'll be there in West Lafayette. Before then, we're going to be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center tomorrow for Ryan Day's press conference. Same goes for Andy Backstrom and me, Spencer Holbrook. Thank you.
You're going to be in West Lafayette, aren't you?
Yeah, that's what I said. Same
okay.
goes for him.
Okay.
Same goes for me.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
all 3
Okay.
be there. Until then, though, we'll be in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center tomorrow for Ryan Day's press conference.
It's going to be a crowded pup tent.
Yeah. Thanks for watching the Monday after Ohio State 37, Maryland 17 on LettermenRow.com. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Until then, thanks for watching.